expressed on the following program are those of the host and not necessarily those of staff, management, or ownership.
Phoenix. Brother Mike back on the radio. Welcome to HardcoreChristianity.com. Welcome to the program. Thank you for tuning in today. Today's Bible study is on Joyce Mitchell. She did it for love. Hey, would you give somebody a call right now and tell them the radio program's on? I'll make a couple of quick announcements. This is Brother Mike. I'm the counselor from the House of Healing in Central Phoenix. We're right on 11th Street, just south of Indian School Road and west of the 51 freeway. On our website, HardcoreChristianity.com, you'll find a schedule of all of our services. Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night. Wednesday night is our ladies only healing, teaching, and deliverance night. Thursday night is our individual, personal, private prayer night. Anybody who comes to the service, we will pray for them, each one of them individually. Friday night is my teaching service. For my radio listeners, starts at 6:30 p.m. Come a little early so you can get a seat. And also on the website, if you go there, you can join us on our Facebook page. You can join up with our YouTube teaching channel, and you can sign up for one of our free seminars. The next one is July 17th. And those seminars you won't want to miss. You'll need to sign up for those because we usually don't have enough seats for everybody. And also when you go to the website, the PayPal button's there. Thank you for your donations and your kind support to keep the radio ministry going. May God bless you. Joyce Mitchell did it for love. You know, in my counseling practice, and I've been a counselor now for over 34 years, I run into so many people that come to me for counseling who were wounded or injured in childhood. And during childhood, they did develop this terrible feeling or sense of rejection by one parent or the other or both. Could be a step parent, could be an adopted parent. Of course, no two families are exactly the same. But this is kind of a common thing I run into in my counseling practice is people come in for help because of emotional issues and spiritual issues that started in childhood. Fortunately, over the years, I've seen hundreds of people healed and cured of this childhood malady. And the root of it, the root for the success of the healing of this terrible childhood emotional pain can be found in Isaiah chapter 53. And that, of course, is the great chapter regarding the Lord Jesus, the Messiah, or the Moshiach of the Jews. And in Isaiah 53, verse 3, it says, quote, "He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. We hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not." In that verse, the Lord Jesus went through the worst form of rejection known to man. And because he suffered such severe rejection, he is able to heal and cure people who are suffering from the same horrible pain and sorrow and suffering and lack of respect from others. Because Jesus suffered so intensely on the cross of Calvary and was rejected by his own people, the Jews, and rejected by humanity in general, he is able to save people who are also suffering from this horrible spirit of rejection from childhood. Let me give you a quick example of this. Everybody is aware of the current situation with Joyce Mitchell and the two cold-blooded murderers in New York at Clinton Correctional Facility, Richard Matt and David Sweet. This is a very sad situation. And I was able to get a little bit of background on Joyce Mitchell. I did some digging. And come to find out, she grew up in a dysfunctional family. She had a breach, so to speak, with her father. Her father was an unloving, unaffectionate, kind of a stern, emotionally unavailable man. And when people grow up in this kind of environment, both girls and boys, and they're facing a father that kind of has these emotional characteristics, the spirit of rejection and this deep sense of not measuring up and not feeling like you're a person of value kind of sinks into the child's soul at a very, very early age. And my guess is, obviously I haven't counseled with Joyce Mitchell and don't have all the specific details, my guess is she was pretty much like most of my clients that come in for help. And she grew up in an environment where her father was not there for her, so to speak. And she spent most of her life in a way kind of looking for her father, wanting to find some man that was like her dad, but who would see her as valuable and someone that she could please and someone she could be accepted by. In this breakout situation in New York, her current husband, worked at the facility and apparently was a fairly nice person and had a personality very different from her father. And of course, Joyce was not satisfied with her husband. She wanted someone else who was like her father, similar to her father, but available to her. And so apparently, according to the police records, she started to have a long-term affair with Richard Matt. He was 48 years old, and his partner, his best friend, was a guy named David Sweet. Now, these two guys were cold-blooded killers. They were masochists. They were professional liars. They were vicious killers, and they were serving life sentences. And Joyce developed this romantic relationship with Matt. And apparently, according to the records, they had decided to try to break out. And what was really kind of scary about this whole situation is the availability of prison guards to have affairs and have intercourse with inmates. Because her affair with Matt, Richard Matt, was a long-standing affair. And to help them break out, according to the reports, she gave them hacksaw blades and chisels, punches, screwdriver bits, different things. It was quite amazing how she had smuggled stuff into the prison and got this material to them to allow them to use power tools to break out of the jail cells and metal and so on. It was almost like Clint Eastwood in that movie where he was in prison on the island there in San Francisco. She did everything she could to help them. Now she's facing at least, at a minimum, of 7 years in prison herself for helping these two monsters get out. By the way, they're still on the loose. They still haven't found these guys. And this all happened on June 6th, as you remember it. They got out, let's say around noon, apparently, is when they had escaped. And the whole situation was very sad because the husband did not know, apparently, that Joyce was having this long-term affair. So you can kind of see how this thing worked out, and I have seen this numerous times in my counseling practice. People who are not satisfied with their spouses are kind of continually looking for that person that kind of fits their emotional needs. And when they marry somebody who's kind of a round peg in a square hole, this woman now, of course, has lost everything. She was a seamstress in the tailor shop. That's how she met these two murderers. She was making $58,000 a year plus benefits to teach, apparently to teach cold-blooded killers how to sew. I guess that's what we call rehabilitation here in the United States, having cold-blooded killers sign up for the tailor shop to learn how to sew. But anyway, as you can imagine the scenario, Matt sweet-talked her. She thought she was falling in love. Apparently she had originally agreed to be the getaway driver and backed out on that. And now she's in a horrible situation. But what really happened here? What was the emotional component of it? If you read further about Joyce, she was actually, a pretty good person. She did a lot of charity work at the prison and in other facilities. None of the neighbors knew that she was capable of doing anything like this. All the neighbors, apparently, who they interviewed, thought that they had a good marriage. They knew she was a good person. Everybody was just, kind of shocked over the whole situation. And what was concerning about it was she had already been under investigation for having sexual contact with inmates at that prison and she was still working there in the seamstress shop, as a seamstress in the tailor shop. And, of course, that's kind of what it is here in America with prisons. They're horrible places to go. There's no rehabilitation available. There's no hope, really, available when you go to prison. Nobody ever comes out, or almost nobody ever comes out a better person than when they went in. The whole concept of rehabilitation is a farce. And apparently one of the things that they were going to do there was she was going to help them escape, meet up later, apparently, and then the two cold-blooded killers had agreed to go, as a favor to her, to go ahead and murder her husband and get him out of the way. What she doesn't realize, or what she doesn't know, is she would have been murdered as well. There's no way they would have let her live. She was a witness to the whole thing and a participant in helping them. She would have never made it. The whole thing was a pack of lies. But it was all based on her childhood. All this happened to her because she was never cured of the horrible spirit of rejection from childhood. And this childhood wound in the soul causes people to act and think and behave in ways that they know are wrong, but they find themselves unable to stop. Their mind just goes a certain way, and it's unable to change. Who would have dreamed that this breakout was actually hatched in the childhood of all three of these people? These cold-blooded killers both grew up in abusive families, and both of them had powerful spirits of murder had entered their souls. And whenever somebody has a spirit of murder, of course, the spirit of anger and rage was the first ones to get in. Then they later let in the horrible spirit of murder. And this demon is extremely powerful and is very bloodthirsty. Had poor Joyce got into Christian counseling when she was young, and had she found someone or some church that actually believed in deliverance, none of this would have ever happened. Are you suffering from the spirit of rejection from childhood? Has this thing happened to you? Do you feel rejected, worthless, of no value, and you can't shake it? You can't get away from it? You can be healed. 602-636-5800. If you're having thoughts about committing a crime, you can come for free counseling services at the House of Healing if you're a born-again Christian. 602-636-5800. You do not have to live with the monster of rejection anymore.
The views expressed on the preceding program are those of the host and not necessarily those of staff, management, or ownership. This program has been sponsored by Michael W. Smith.